Hi everyone, it's Rena, and today I have a tutorial for you on a diamond fold card. It's not a new card, it's been around for a couple of years, but Karen over in my VIP group was really excited about this card, so I took a look at a number of different tutorials and I added my own twist on this card. My designer pieces are cut a little bit differently as far as the size as other tutorials, and I added a pocket for a gift card or money or a tag or anything that you want to add. I hope that you'll give this tutorial a try, and if you're in my VIP group, I'd love to see the projects that you make, and if you're not in my VIP group, I'd love for you to join. So let's go ahead and get to the tutorial. Okay, so this is the card that we're going to be making today, and it's a diamond fold card, and I've made 3. This was my first one. It's a little Christmas card, and just opens up like this. And then this is my second one. And I did decorate the back on most of mine. You don't have to decorate the back if you don't want to, but because you do have to decorate this panel right here, to me I just kind of felt like I might as well just finish it off. But again, just opens up like this. And then the last one I have, and this is the one I'm going to be showing you how to make today, is it actually has a magnet closure on this side, and it opens up like this. And I added a little pocket over here with a little card, and it fits a little gift card. Just wanted you to see that piece. And the magnet itself, I added a magnet right here, and then I added a magnet right here, and a magnet back here, so that way it'll close. Initially, I had only added a magnet here and a magnet back here, but when I added all the designer paper, it wouldn't hold. So then I peeled this piece of paper off and I added a magnet here. So this actually has 3 magnets on it so that it'll hold closed. You don't need a magnet. These ones I didn't have any magnets on them, and I think they look fine and they'll fit fine in the card envelope that you put it in, but I just decided to see how it would look if I added a magnet, and I do like the magnet closure, but it's completely up to you. So this one I'm going to be showing you how to make today, and I'm just adding the additional pocket. If you want to add it, you can. You definitely don't have to add the pocket if you don't want to, and you don't have to decorate the back if you don't want to. Completely up to you. I will include the sizes of the designer paper in the supplies slide, as well as in the PDF, so you'll have those, and I will show you how to cut out the designer paper for all of the little triangles so that you know how to do that as well. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start by scoring our 6 by 11 inch paper on the 11-inch side, and we're going to score it at 4 inches. Then you're going to score it at 6 inches. And then you're going to score it at 7.5 inches. Then you're going to take your pencil and you're going to make a mark on the 2-inch mark. I want you to then rotate it over. You're going to make a mark at 3 inches, and then you're going to rotate it again and you're going to make a mark at 9 inches. So when you look at your cardstock, you're going to have 3 marks. You're going to have one right here, one right here, and one right here. So all your marks are going to be on the same side, okay? So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make a diagonal X. Very similar to like we did when we did our twist pop-up panel. You're going to line this mark up here with this score line down here. This was our 6-inch score line, okay? Make sure it's the second score line that you make your X with, not the first one. So go ahead and line up your mark up here with your line down here, and I did draw a little blue line straight down so that I could line them up. You can also use a ruler if you'd like to do that. And then you're just gonna make the first line of your X. And now you're gonna do the same thing with this mark over here, is line it down up to this score line right here and make the other side of your X. Very, very similar to what we did with our twist pop-up panel card. Same idea. Okay, so done with your scoreboard for right now. So now your cardstock should look like this. You have your X right here in the middle, then you have a fold here, a score line here, and a score line here. And you also have a score line straight down the center of your X. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to make some cuts right here so that we can start the shape of our diamond. So you'll need your paper trimmer, and you're going to line up to trim this notch right here with this notch up here, and then you're just going to cut that piece off. You can definitely do it with a pair of scissors if you want, but I'm going to use my paper trimmer. And again, I'm just lining up this little notch that I made right here, the little pencil mark, with this little pencil mark up here. And then I'm just going to slice that off. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to line up this little pencil mark right here with this pencil mark right here. And I'm just going to slice that little piece off. Okay, so you're done with your paper trimmer for right now. So now we're going to fold our card. And I like to fold this way, but if you want to fold this way, it's completely fine. This score line right here is going to be a valley fold. The middle score line is going to be a mountain fold. And this score line is going to be a valley. So valley, mountain, valley, or valley, mountain, valley, however you want to do it. So I'm going to do it from the back. So I'm starting with my valley fold and burnishing with my bone folder, and then I'm going to do my mountain fold, burnishing of course, and then I'm going to do my valley fold again. Okay, so this is what you should have at this point. So now what we're going to do is we're going to do our diagonal lines, and I want you to do the same thing we did with our twist pop-up panel. Fold it to the back, or flip it over to the back, and now make your diagonal folds on this side. So I'm going to start going like this, and then I'm going to do my diagonal fold this way. Okay, so you did all of your score line straight folds this way, and then you flipped over and you did your diagonals on the back. And I find that this always helps make your mechanism fold more easily. Okay, so there's your diamond, and then just burnish it down. So again, all I did was just like this, and then I burnished it down. So now I have my diamond fold here. Okay, so you'll want to make sure that you erase your pencil marks at this point, or if you've done it already, that's great. But if not, make sure you do erase your pencil marks. And this is pretty much the base of your card. If you want to decorate your card just like this without adding the pocket, you can definitely do that. I'm going to take one more step to show you the pocket, and then I'll show you how I added my magnets, and then we'll cut the designer paper. So for your pocket, you needed one piece that measured 2.5 by 7 inches, and you're just going to take your scoring board and you're going to score at 6.5 inches and 1/2 inch, and then rotate it over and score at 2 inches. And we've done this little technique before when we've made our mini albums. So now what I want you to do is just add your score tape all around, and then you're going to burnish your tape and then miter your edges. So go ahead and add score tape all the way around. And you could definitely miter your edges and then add your score tape. I always seem to leave little pieces off when I do that, so that's why I always add my score tape first. Make sure you burnish that down really good. And then you're going to just miter your corners, which is again just cutting across this little point where the pocket meets, or the score lines meet. Just miter those. And I had a little tiny piece of tape that went over, so I'm just going to cut that off. Okay, and so now you're going to fold on your score lines, and then make sure that you burnish, 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 burnish again. So now you have your little pocket. And all you're going to do is you're going to take off your score tape and you're going to stick this down. Okay, so now you have your pocket, and I'm just burnishing that down. So now you added your pocket. So if you wanted to add magnets, and you don't have to, but if you decide you want to add magnets, all you would do is you would place a magnet right here, and I am going to add magnets, so I'll go ahead and add it. I'm going to put my magnet right there, and then I'm going to take my next magnet and I'm just going to add it right on top of that one. You see how it already clicked in place, but the sticky side was the other side. So I'm just going to, oops, take a piece of score tape and stick that on the top. And then I'm going to fold this over. Actually, I'm going to add my magnet right on top of that one, and I'm going to stick it on the back side right there. Okay. And you can add a little tiny piece of score tape there too if you want to hold your magnet in place until you put your designer paper on. And there's your magnet. So again, I have one right there on the inside. I added one right here on the back, and then I added the other one on the back of this. So now we're ready to decorate with our designer paper. Okay, so to decorate with your designer paper, you're going to need at least 2 squares that measure 3.5 by 5.5. And I did see a lot of videos for this card where they did like 1/8 of an inch. I really don't like to deal with 1/8 of an inch, so I went ahead and I decided I wanted my designer paper to be 1/4 of an inch around. I've said this a couple of times that I really kind of like the way it looks when my cards or my mini albums have that matted look. So I just made mine 5.5 by 3.5. So I cut 3 because I also want to mat this little diamond on the back since I added my diamond. So if you decide you're going to add magnets, or if you just want to mat this diamond in the back as well, then you're going to actually need 3 designer pieces that measure 5.5 by 3.5. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by using our scoring tool to add little marks on these so we know where to cut. So you're going to take your 5.5 by 3.5 and you're going to line it up on the 5.5 side, and you're going to make a little tiny mark at 2 3/4, rotate it over, and then you're going to make another mark at 1 3/4, rotate it back again, and again you're going to make one at 2 3/4, rotate it again, and make another mark at 1 3/4. So you have 4 marks all around, and all I did was on each 5.5 side 2 3/4, 2 3/4, and then on each 3.5 side 1 3/4, 1 3/4. Those are perfectly centered. So if you decide to mat your diamonds a little differently, just make sure that you're adding your marks perfectly at the center. So I'm going to add my marks for all 3 of them at the same time. So again, on the 5.5 inch side it's 2 3/4. On the 3.5, it's 1 3/4. Okay, so now that we have our marks, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to take out our paper trimmer again, and we are going to be cutting on those marks. Just like we did earlier to make the diamond, you're going to cut from mark to mark. So you're going to start with any point you want, but you'll cut from this mark to this mark, this mark to this mark, this mark to this mark, and then this mark to this mark, and it'll make your diamond. Okay, so you just line up your little marks that you made, point to point, and then cut off the little corners. And don't throw these because these are going to be the little quarters we need to cover the inside. So just again, line up your little point, your little marks. Oh, there it is. And the more you cut it, make sure that you hold it, because mine tends to move, and then it's not a perfectly straight cut. Okay, so now you have your little diamond center. So go ahead and do that for the other two pieces if you cut out 3 or your last piece, and then I'll be right back. Okay, so now you have your 3 diamonds or your 2 diamonds, however you decided to mat, and you're going to take one of those diamonds and you're going to cut it right in half from point to point. So just line this up on your paper trimmer, and from point to point, line that up, and then just cut straight down the center. Okay, so now we're just going to add our designer paper to our card. So for the front, you can just add whichever diamond, and I use double-sided paper. If you don't and you want to coordinate your paper, you definitely can. That's what I did with this card, is I used just different paper that I thought coordinated well together. But in this case, I just went ahead and used double-sided, and so I would just add my first diamond here and then my second diamond over here on the back. Now for the inside, you'll have your the diamond you just cut in half. This piece will fit perfectly right here, and then these little quarter pieces that you cut will fit on all of these little sections. So you just have to rotate them around until you figure out where each of them goes. And I know that it looks a little confusing, but once you, I always lay them out first, so then that way when I'm taping them, they're not so confusing. And I cut so many at the same time, so sometimes it takes a little bit of time. So then you have those pieces and you'll just tape those down. And then I also included sizes for the designer pieces of paper for this little panel right here. This is 5 3/4 by 1 1/4. And then for my pocket, this is 5 3/4. I believe it's by 1 3/4. This was 1 1/4, 1 3/4. And then for my pocket, it's 5 3/4 by 2. And then I just add designer paper, score tape or ATG, and I just stick that in like that. So that's how you would decorate your card, and then you'd flip it over and you'd decorate the back if you wanted to do that. You do have enough pieces with those 3 squares to decorate the entire card. So I'm going to add my designer paper, and I'll be right back in a second. Okay, so now I have added all of my designer paper to the inside of my card. Just a few quick tips for you. So when you add your paper to this side, make sure that you're looking at, especially for this panel right here, where you lined it up right here. So if, let's say, you want to use this side, that's completely fine. You can make it two different patterns, but if you'll look closely right here, If I would have just added it like this and didn't pay attention, sometimes I don't get things perfectly even in the center. But if, let's say, I would have added it a little bit up there at the top, a little higher, then when I would have closed it, you would be able to clearly see how they don't match. So when you're adding this piece of paper right here, just kind of try to have this open at the same time, so that way you can line up your paper so they go right across the same way. You can do it this way to match. It's completely up to you how you make your cards. On this one I did different paper right here. On this one I did the same exact paper so that it matched. Completely up to you, but I just wanted you to see how you want to make sure that you're looking at when you line up this piece. Now these pieces over here, they won't show on the front, so it doesn't really matter. You don't have to really have that open to look at it, but you do need to make sure that you're looking at this piece right here because it will show on the front. Okay, so that's it. That's the tutorial for today. If you do want to add the pocket, I will include those dimensions on the supply list as well as in the PDF document, but the optional card that goes on the inside, I want to say that it's 5.5 by 3 1/4. That's the size that I made it. That's this one right here, 5.5 by 3 1/4. And then I added this white piece of paper here and this designer piece of paper right here, and this was 5 1/4 by 3. And then I made my sentiment, so when I opened my card it read this way, but you could completely add your sentiment going this way as well. It's completely up to you. You could also, when making this diamond fold card, you could even add a flap here if you wanted to, kind of the way that we did when we made the 4 twist pop-up panel card, how we added the flaps. If you decided to add a flap instead of a pocket, maybe you wanted to include a picture on the flap, completely up to you. I would then for sure add a magnet, at least for the flap, so that the flap stays closed and it holds nicely in, because then otherwise you'll have a flap falling out and then you'll have this piece right here that may not fit very well. So that's it. If you have any questions, please feel free to let me know. If you have any comments, I'd love to see them as well. Thanks so much.